Okay, here we go, our ruby square foil technique. So I'll start off in the back, just working above the O bone, working towards the crown. And here I'll use a high lift ash with 40 volume developer. So make sure that you're placing the foils like right at the seam, like at the root of each section. I'm working with quite fine, like pretty tight packing here, just to get a heavy overall color aesthetic. So just make sure you get even distribution and saturation of product. Okay, so I'll work this entire panel with the same technique. For each slice, I'm taking about 60% of that section, and my sections, again, is quite fine because I want a decent amount of chemical coverage throughout this technique. So just lift the hair, place the foils, product in the center, hit the roots, then go through the ends. So this part is like the more mechanical portion of this technique. So the technique really doesn't vary except through this last section. I'll take a weave just to allow for that jumpiness at the crown. Now again, the way you take the weave, it depends on the existing crowns. If you see a vicious crown, like a cowlick right there at the crown, you want to take that cowlick area quite soft. But every client, that crown area is a bit unique, so you have to adapt the technique to suit the existing details that you have to work up on top of. Okay, so now as I work to the side area, I'm working with horizontal sections. And again, I'm still taking the packets of my foils, each section, they're quite fine. And I'll begin by weaving right through the hairline, and I'll adapt that into a slice so I don't get like this really heavy line right there at the front hairline, because that'll look a bit too artificial. And again, I want this color technique to be quite heavy but still have that really nice natural organic feel to it. So again, same technique, working all throughout this panel, horizontal sections, start off with a weave and then blend it into a slice. And again, I'm working this entire right panel in the exact same manner, and just be a little bit, notice how like right at that hairline, her hair is a bit fine. So I also have to take that into consideration. So one way I can adapt to that sparse hairline is I can take just a tiny weave and then blend it into a slice, or I can leave it out. And once the technique's finished, I can go back to that one area and just like freehand paint the color on. I won't get the lightness of the color that I'll get within the foil, but it'll help me blend between like her natural level 2 and the lightness in the foil. It's just like, it'll soften out that contrast. So that's probably the safest way to make that adaptation. But again, every client, every portion of the head is a bit unique. So you have to have that awareness and the ability to adapt your technique to these minute details. Because again, if we overlook these details, it will diminish our overall effect. Okay, so now on the opposite side, the left side, same technique, working with horizontal sections. I'm still taking tight packets, and my sections are quite fine. Just be real mechanical with your foil work. Work super clean. Have a strong intention for every section that you're about to work on. Okay, so now jump into high speed for the rest of this panel. And again, it's the same technique. Her hairline on the left side is much more easier to work over than the right. It doesn't have those challenges. So again, taking a slice, place that foil right there at the seam, right by the root. You want to get it as close as humanly possible. So don't slice too much hair. If the slice is too thick, it's really hard to get up there really tight on the roots. If you want to get it tighter, don't be lazy. Just take smaller sections and you'll get that same effect. It's just per area, per section, and you're just looking at an additional 2 or 3 black foil. So it's worth that extra effort. Okay, now I'm still working the same technique towards my parting. And again, still slicing. And this final slice, I slice it from like wider in the back towards the crown to a bit finer through the hairline, because again, the density of the hair varies significantly there. So I place the product, the mid shafts, then gently touch up the roots. And then after that, I'll hit the ends. Hitting the ends is a bit redundant because I will go back after and cut her hair quite short. But just so the saturation through those ends, I don't have to be so like super perfect at that, because I know within an hour those ends will be cut off. Okay, so nice clean packet, and then we'll work our final section through the top. Now here I'll change my color. I'm using Lightener with 40 volume developer. And I bumped up the developer just to take into consideration my processing time. I want all the chemical to process at the same time. And through the top, I'll be taking back-to-back foils. So the technique through the front top area is quite heavy. So everything, again, I'm working with back-to-back foils. Very fine sections, because again, I want to hit all those roots. If I take the section too thick, I won't be able to get as close as I need to at the root area. Okay, so now jumping into high speed, and now actually as I take these foils, I'm pivoting them slightly towards the left. And it's just, it's easier for me to position my body when I'm doing the foils, and also her hair naturally parts from left to right. So just that slight adaptation will allow the chemical to fall a lot softer. So still working with tight sectioning. Each section is about 5 millimeters. And just again, through the top portion, everything's worked in back-to-back packets. Okay, now as you're working these packets, right, make sure seriously that you're getting even saturation and distribution of the product to the hair. I prefer I'm quite generous with product, because then I don't have to go over and stroke the same amount of hair. And the more you stroke it, you'll lose some integrity of the product distribution. So it's better to go using more product, but don't overdo it, because if you pack in the foil with way too much product, you have to anticipate there'll be some product expansion during the processing time, because the scalp kicks off heat, and the foil's a catalyst and it retains the heat. So just get enough saturation where you can work fast and clean. Okay, and now as I'm working towards that crown area, remember these past sections where everything meets to the two sides and the back, the technique, I didn't take it back to back. So for this section here, I went in and I took a softer slice, but there's hair in between. So now I'm starting to blend the technique with the sides and the back area, so it won't fall too heavy right there at the crown. Fortunately, Ruby's she doesn't have a super jumpy cowlick. So for the crown area where the cowlick is, I'll take it a little bit softer, and again, just working from roots to ends, even distribution and saturation of the product. Just lock up my packet. Okay, and there we have it, our foil technique. Then after processing at the bowl, I went back and I toned the ends with a level 10 neutral ash and 10 volume developer. Just because remember through the top I jumped over to Lightener, so I'll just like get a nice even distribution of the tone. When you tone, just make sure you get nice saturation. The hair is a bit moist, so anticipate it to dilute the product. Okay, there we have it. Enjoy.